So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this webinar on values and cultural transformation. So it's great for me to welcome Tor. There's a story, I met Tor 4 years ago when I started to work for Volvo. So this man was actually on vacation, 250 kilometers away from Gothenburg, I think. And he came to meet me to tell me a bit about culture. And so it's been a lot of fun for me to be connected with Tor, but also in the last several years, I've used the Barrett tools, obviously. And 2 weeks ago, I was really struck by a study that the Barrett team did in the last several weeks around the world about values and cultural transformation. And because I was really hopeful that the pandemic would allow us to maybe accelerate the transformation of our humanity. And I think in some cases it has. So today, I'm going to invite Tor to share the results of the study, the findings, the key insights. And after that, we're going to have a Q&A with me and Tor, and then we're going to invite you to participate as well, you know, in the Q&A and the exchange. And we're going to create a circle of wisdom here to share our wisdom. So it's a great pleasure for me to welcome Tor. And I'm going to ask everyone to be on mute until we unmute you for the debate so we can film it, because we're going to be sharing the video after with some people who couldn't be physically here. So welcome, Tor. Tor, I muted you, so I need to
now. Oh, oops, there we go. Yeah, I realized that. Thank you, Stefan. Maybe a little bit about, I had the role as culture manager inside of Volvo. So my background is actually coming from the practical field of doing the work, so to speak. And I guess that was the reason why Stefan was interested to meet me at that point. And we've been connected ever since. So why don't we do it like this? When you have a question, either you note it on your own pad, or you can also put it in the chat and we can go back and revisit those, and you can see what kind of questions others have if you want to share your question. I have taken the presentation, which is normally 1 hour, very condensed, and then try to make that a little shorter so that we have time for Q&As, but also questioning about, okay, with this insight, how do we go forward? What are the things that we can make out of this? What can we do? And I think that's more interesting than the result in itself. So I'd like to make space for that as well. All the slides that I'm showing is actually on our website as well. And that website link is in the end of the presentation as well. So you don't have to, if you want to, of course, you are able to take pictures of that, if that is the case, but everything is available afterwards. I will talk about a little bit about the why, and then also about the survey in general, how it was set up. Then I will talk about the impact. What are the things that we feel that we need to work on and focus on in order to recover? And then also what are the actions that we see coming out of this, and what are the things that we are doing right now or at this time with the result, as a result of that. So those are the things that I would cover today. And let's see now if I have permission to share my screen, and I need then to have an approval from Stefan that I am able to share my screen. Once you have that, you have a thumbs up, and then I will do that.
I think I just approved you.
You think so? Yes, you did.
Yeah.
So let's see if I then go like this.
Yeah, it works.
You will be able to see this then, I think. Good. So we call this presentation The Great Transformation, with a question mark afterwards, because what we see is there is a great transformation. What we have realized is that this is maybe the biggest shift in life conditions for humanity at this time of our lives, so to speak. It has been similar shifts like this before, but it's a huge change for many people at this time. And since we know that our values is a reflection of our needs, it also then gives an understanding of what are the needs at this time. And because our life conditions have changed dramatically during this period, and that is also impacting our priority of values and also our purpose. Purpose and values change along with the life conditions that we are put into. So Having said that, we then thought, why would we do this survey? First of all, we would like to know what kind of impact does this pandemic have on our values and our culture in the organizational context? And maybe that is framing the scope a little bit. This is about organizational context. It's not about national or community or municipality perspective. It is solely about the organizational perspective. And the second reason why we would do this is really, what are the emerging priorities that governments, business, and employees and citizens would have at this time, and what going forward, so to speak. And that's the third one. What are the needs that is being asked for in order to recover and thrive? So you could say those are the questions that we had, and we thought it would be very important to do that in the midst of our COVID impact, so to speak. What's not written here of why is also to empower ourselves with the language and understanding, and share that as an open space, or in an open space that everyone could actually use and benefit from that in their relationship with others. Even if you're either a leader of an organization, or if you're a consultant working, supporting a consultant, or in any way you feel that this is important. So this is hopefully giving you a perspective of what are the needs at this moment, so to speak, in time for humanity. The questions that we asked was these 4 questions. First, we asked the questions about the values and behaviors that most reflect who you are, which is giving us an understanding of what are the needs that people have as individuals at this time. And then we asked the question, what are the values that you felt that we were having before, pre-COVID, so to speak, in your organization, how we operated, so to speak. And then we asked, what are the values that you feel and behaviors that you feel that you are operating by at this time during the COVID period? And the last one then, what are the values and behaviors that you believe are going to be essential for your organization to recover and thrive after the COVID? So it's good to have these questions in mind when you look at the result, because what you see is the answers to these questions. Please interrupt me or make a chat or something like that, that if I'm speaking too fast, or if I'm missing something that doesn't make sense to you. Next one then is really who responded. We had 2,520 respondents, but then we pulled out the ones who were employed, because we also have unemployed and working from home. There are many different, but we specifically focused on those who are employed, and that's the result that we have here. And then we looked upon what kind of position you have in the organization, where in the world you are, but also about, let's see here, I have been covering that, the different type of generations that we are in, so to speak. And then we had 38 different industries, so we have many different industries that you can break this down into. All this material is available on our website in more detail. What I'm going to show you now is the overall result and the overall input for it. The survey was done end of April and the beginning of May for a couple of weeks there. Now, if I were to say one single thing that stands out is this one. This is something, the change that we see, or the transformation or the transition, whatever you label that, because transformation is really, in our language, is something that happens inside of us. Change is what's happening outside of us, but the rapid transformation could be, is it really a transformation? But the change and the transformation that we see is something that we normally see in a span of 5 to 7 years in organization, that big change. It just happened in 6 weeks now. All this has really transformed quite a lot of a shift in focus, so to speak. And that's maybe the major kind of takeaway that we have from this. So moving then forward, what is the impact that COVID-19 have had on us, so to speak? If we start then looking at from a personal perspective, looking at the questions of whether you choose the values of and behaviors that describes who you are, and this is what are the most important values right now. Now, I have to say, maybe I should start with the last bullet here, continuous learning and family, because they were also in the earlier description of your personal values. All the others are new values, values that we don't normally see when they choose their personal values. But continuous learning and family are the two most important or two most selected values when they describe ourselves. So learning and family is becoming more important to more people, so to speak, when they describe themselves. But then you also have themes here regarding making a difference, caring, adaptability, and well-being. And if you look at those, you could see it's really wanting to adapt to the situation that is happening, but also taking care of yourself and others in this time. So that is becoming more important for us as individuals. Having that in mind, then going into the more organizational perspective, we see a shift from what we traditionally would see in organization is a focus on performance. And when you talk about performance, then it's more of result orientation, achievement, and financial stability, those type of words there. Moving from performance to much more of people focus, and people focus is more of caring and employee health and balanced homework. So there is a clear shift in focus regarding them. But you also have these more what we call limiting values of control and hierarchy, which is then more of bureaucracy and cost reduction and those type of things, which is more power-based values, traditionally, you could say. And we are going more towards adaptability in that respect of how you actually respond to the change in the market, like agility and here we also think that you need to kind of start to work in a more digital world as well. Those are in that sphere. And working together, that's more like teamwork, collaboration. This is cross-group collaboration, information sharing and the like, so to speak. So there is a shift from the traditional performance control and hierarchy to more people focus, more adaptability, and more working together. That's a clear shift when we talk about that. We also see that we do, for those who are not familiar with the way on how we measure culture, we measure not only the values that are positive and being asked for, we also get a measure of the values that could be coming from our fear of not getting enough, our fear of not being loved enough, or our fear of not being enough, so to speak. And if we put those together, we get, the number of values that has been selected. 20% earlier was the number in organization in general. 20% of the values are what we call fear-based or potentially limiting values. And that has decreased. So you can say in that sense that the culture has become more healthy because lower level of fear is a healthier culture. But I think that the major thing is the concern that has shifted, so to speak. And that is, we have moved from this more traditional, which is bureaucracy and control and hierarchy, which is more power-based, to more of, feeling of, I don't know what's going to happen, this confusion and caution, but also, of course, that our job is at our stake. And those are on rise, whereas these other ones' values are decreasing. Now, this is a reflective question that you could maybe ponder about until we have our Q&A. Do you think that bureaucracy, control, and hierarchy is going to go away once COVID is leaving? Or do you think that it's going to stay and come back, so to speak? And that is, we don't have the answer to that, but that could be an interesting conversation because we see this shift. Or is it going to go back to what it was, or are we going to take learning from what we see here is happening? For those who have not then seen the Barrett model, there is if we look upon the model, I think that you are quite familiar with Maslow. It's based on the Maslow hierarchy of needs, but an extension of that. You can say that the basic need is what we call foundation or self-interest. Then you have evolutionary words or transformational words, and then you have much more of common good or purpose-driven type of words, you could say. So that's the high level, and then we divide that into 7 levels. And these 7 levels, you look at, you need as an organization to be viable and making sure that you have enough money to survive and have healthy employees and so on. But you also need to have a good relationships with your stakeholders and shareholders, for that sake. And you need to have well-functioning operations in terms of performance and so on. And those are fundamental for an organization as we see it. And what we do is that we put the values that they select into this model, and then we can see where is the energy concentration. I will show you an example of this in a second. But then you also have these, when you are transforming and letting go you have to be courageous to be able to evolve into the next stage, so to speak. When it comes to the purpose or the common good type of values, first of all, you need to find what is my purpose as an individual, but also as an organization. But then when you have that clarity, you can then start to collaborate and unite with other communities and members around you. And then you have that you actually are living your purpose fully and giving back to society, so to speak. So none of these values are better than the other. It's just different type of energy focus and an expression of different type of needs and aspirations as we have as human beings. And that is the same for organizations. So if I then look at taking this model and put the values that we have selected into the model, you have the different 7 levels here, and the blue dots are the ones that are positive values, and the ones that are red rings with the white back is actually potential limiting values. So from an energetic perspective, you can very clearly see that there is a focus on level 1, which is survival in terms of being viable, but also on performance. That's where you have a concentration, even if some of those energies are potentially limiting, meaning that it's self-interest driven or fear driven, you could say. When we go to during the COVID situation, it's very clear that we have a focus on wanting to change and evolve and transform, so to speak. So energetically, you can see that there is a shift. And if we look at the value words and the numbers on the right-hand side, is actually the level that teamwork goes into, level 4, for example. So that's just the level that those dots are representing, and the L is actually representing the potentially limiting value. So they get the more description of that. So looking at this, then we can then start to see what is the energy going on at the moment in organizations pre and during the COVID situation. So moving then, and what we highlighted here, I didn't say that, but what we highlight here, adaptability, digital connectivity, caring, employee health, information sharing, agility, balance on work, and cross-group collaboration are all new words that you don't see in the pre-COVID, but something that you see showing up here. And that is an interesting shift when we talk about how we operate, because you remember the question, how did we operate before, and how are we operating currently? And there is a big shift in focus, both energetically, but also word-wise. Not world, but word-wise. Sorry for my Swinglish. I hope that is understood and accepted. So that is what we have seen, so to speak. So what is it that we need then to work on in order to recover and thrive? What are the things that is happening, or what are the things that we see? Well, we see that there are actually 6 values in the experienced period right now during COVID that is also requested in the future. And that is quite interesting. We would like to continue and have more focus in order for us to take this on adaptability, agility, teamwork, digital connectivity, balance on work, and cross-group collaboration. Teamwork happens to be throughout all the 3 different perspectives. That's why it has an asterisk. But these are all the same. And if I then show you the graphical picture of this, let's see if I can get to that. I can't. See if I do that. Here, you have now the picture of the during and then the post-COVID, meaning I can see energetically it's a very similar type of energy focus on level 4, the evolutionary picture. And level 4 in this case is adaptability, it is teamwork, it's agility, and it is balance on work. But there are more values there as well, but those are the ones that are the same. And then you also have an innovation and continuous learning. So it's a strong focus on being able to adapt to the new changing situation. But energetically, it's much more aligned. And what we also see that all the words that are in blue are actually the same in during and post-COVID. So we would like to take a lot of what we have today with us going into the situation afterwards. So looking at the next one then, picture is the new direction, the new values going forward. as I said, is employee engagement, which is something that is really also on the top when it comes to pre-COVID. But innovation, continuous learning, and open communication, which has very much to do with how you actually interact and work together and learn and develop, so to speak. Now, what we also do is that we take the values, not only display them in the 7 levels, we also display them from a more organizational, or you can call it business perspective. And these areas, to better understand what is happening from a business perspective, we called it process, people, and purpose. I feel that it could be even more precise to say that process, which is finance and efficiency and agility and innovation, is very much of what we do. Everything from customer focus to how effective and efficient we are in doing what we do. I don't know if you're disturbed by somebody cutting the grass outside my window, but that's what's happening if you wonder what is the background sound. Anyway, then we also have, from a more people perspective, which is more of well-being and trust and engagement type of related words. And then you have the more purpose, which is more about where are we going and how do you communicate and how do we take a responsibility in society and make a more sustainable approach. And I think it's organizing, it's more like what are we doing, who are we doing that, and how do we treat the who, and also why are we doing these things. And how is really the values that we would like to make this happen in, so to speak. So that's the 4 different dimensions that gives you a platform. And looking at the concentration from an energetic perspective, it looks like this. There's a shift in business focus. Finance and efficiency, as you see, had 25%. Now it's down to 13, and in the future we would have even less, so to speak. Whereas agility and innovation is something that is increasing. So there is a shift in focus to be able to adapt to the new situation and learn around that. When it comes to trust and engagement, I would say it's very much the same, and also employee well-being. The big one is really what is the direction and how do we communicate, like open communication and the like, so to speak. So those are energetically from another perspective then the shift that we are seeing in this survey. With that said, we also, and you will hear, and on our website, there is a much more interactive, digging deeper into what happened on the social media front at the same time. So we have collaborated with an organization called Axial Region, and they have tracked, in this case here, it's the Google search engines, so to speak, and seeing what are they looking at. And then we have something we call sustainability in society type of related issues, which is climate change, gender equality, human resources, the sustainability goals, and poverty, so to speak. And there is a clear increase of that, but it's also a clear decrease in terms of energy focus when we had the COVID hit us. So sustainability focus and long-term focus has actually gone down during this time. And there is a slightly kind of upward trend when it comes to employee well-being. And the reason why we have, because that is mental health, physical health, safety, and wellness. That why we highlighted the physical health, because that has a tremendous, by itself, it has a big increase, so to speak. And thinking about it, when things like this happen, and this is really, you can see when the World Health Organization declares that we have a pandemic, that's really where we have the decrease and we have an increase focused on the more employee well-being. So we can see that you get much more of self-interest and humanly focused in these periods. Now, I would like to underline and say that this focus on sustainability doesn't go away long-term just because we got this short-term, we need to fix our situation and make sure. It's just that we are getting closer to our own basic needs, which is a prerequisite. I will come back to that in a second here as well. I'm trying to look at time and maybe we should, I'm going to jump. Yeah, okay, let's do it like this. Here's an example of the different type of industries that we have. I took this one into this presentation because I thought that maybe this is something that is close to how you operate, that you will be in this type of industry, consultancy and management. And pre-COVID, we were highly driven individuals, so to speak, and really wanting to make a difference, so to speak, and that's expressed in commitment, achievement, and making a difference. But also that we were very focused on leadership development and coaching, which is really helping others. So that was what is characteristic for this branch before. During, it's interesting that we actually have much more of a finance focus, which is really cost reduction and financial stability. Needed to take care of that. But then you have this looking after themselves and others, like caring and well-being, and in terms of physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being, and that is. And then also that there is a positive attitude and willing to take on new approaches like adaptability, agility, and so on. So that there is clearly a shift, but it's typical for this type of branch. What we see in the future is that we would like to have much more of a resilient approach going forward, like and that is expressed in financial stability, but also well-being and strategic alliances. And we also strongly, as a group, because I am actually part of this group, are also focusing very much on innovation. What is the new way? How do we operate when we are more now in a digital environment? And we need to work continue to adapt and be agile and learn to work in a digital environment. What we then ask for, what are the questions and call for action that we are looking at? And we say that this is not only a health crisis, this is not only a economic crisis or a social crisis or an environmental crisis. It's all of this at the same time. And in order to be sustainable and be able to react upon that, which is coming back to conscious leadership at the end, is really, in order for us to have a sustainable world, we need to have sustainable organization. In order for us to have sustainable organization, we need to have sustainable individuals. If we feel that we are not able to take care of ourselves as individuals, how can we build sustainable organization? And if we don't have sustainable organization, we won't be able to grow. So it's very connected as we see it. And the 7 levels gives a description of what are the needs that we have as individuals or as an organization. And United Nations is a well and good description of the needs of humanity at this point. And they are very connected. So we are actually offering a tool that is making it possible for you to see how your organization are related from a values perspective to the 17 goals as well, in order to start a conversation and become more conscious about what are the things that we need to focus on in order to create this sustainable world. So, I mean, the type of question is for the future is more of what are our needs at this time? And what are the organizational needs? And when I say our stakeholders, that's they are our employees, our clients, our customers, so to speak, and partners for that sake. An organization is more of what is the type of business that we are in, and what is society and planet calling for at the same time. To us, that is being, conscious about what's happening around us. And the question then is, how do you realign your purpose and your core business to those needs? And align your culture to contribute, to co-create that, what we call to live, so to speak, in the world to live in. And just let me finish off with 2 more pictures, and that is more around the next step. And the next step is that we have a landing page. It's quite simple to get to that. You have that at the bottom here, valuescenter.com/COVID, when you have a lot of, you have the recording from a webinar, you have key findings, all the assessment data results, like the type I showed you. We also have had we're going to have a blueprint of approach for leaders to how they can actually cope with this situation. I'll come back to that with the last slide. We are suggesting dialogue tools which you can work with together with your clients. And we also have articles and other materials on this landing page. And this blueprint that I talked about here is actually on the 4th of June, we had this large group interactive dialogue. I know that some of you were in that meeting, and it was an online co-creative conversation about how do we learn to recover. how do we care to heal, and how do we become more agile in this situation, and how do we let go of what needs to be let go of in order to create the future of leadership, so to speak. And now we are consolidating that result and come back with a blueprint description. That was the crash course, and giving us about 25 minutes for Q&As. And my hope was to have 30 minutes, so it's not really that bad, I think. But I hope that was helping you. And I'm going to stop sharing, I think, so that I can see everyone then more better. And I start to turn to you, Stefan, because you have listened to this a couple of times, and I know that you reflect a lot, and I'm sure that you have some opening questions.
Thank you, Tor. You know, when I saw this presentation, I was quite thrilled, because I was really hoping that the COVID would be a catalyst for a major transformation of organizations and then humanity. Mm. The challenge now is to go back to normal. You know, I know a lot of people don't want to go back to the old normal, they want a new normal. But, you know, organizations that are profit-driven are often the same. You know, it would be so easy to have suffered and just go back to business as usual. So you're, I would say, you're someone that guides people in organizational transformation. So, you know, what would you advise anyone that runs a team or an organization? How could they use this? Because, you know, people have been destabilized, so now you can reorient. You know, in quantum physics, they say we need chaos. So how can we use it to our advantage to really transform and not just have suffered and go back to normal?
I think that one, I mean, you can use the result and reading, letting either look at the video or a big summary and have that as a stepstone to have a conversation. How does it look like in our case? And what are the learnings that we can take advantage of from what this global or your industry is saying? And how does it look at us? And have that as a stepstone to talk about what are the needs that we would like to take as a learning from this situation. That is enough for you to have a quite deep conversation. And you don't need to do an assessment necessarily, but you need to have if you ask what are the values, since I say that this is our values is an expression of our needs at this current moment. By asking about the values, you get that key to understand the needs of your people that you're working with. If you are a consultant or if you're a leader inside of an organization, doesn't really matter. You may not have them organized in terms of the different energy levels, but you have a starting point and you can say which are the ones most important for us. But the first thing I would do is to use the result and see how does this apply to us? Is this a reflection of how we feel that we have it at us? And if it is, then you can use some of those words. And if it isn't, then you can ask what are the values that you think we need to focus on going forward.
Yeah, so to basically engage in a dialogue around values and use the fact to actually converse with people. Some people that actually were absent from work, you know, the physical work. Some people actually were off work. Now they're going back. How does it feel for you, Tor? How does it feel? And, you know, what's important for you at this moment? And yeah,
let me say something about that, because I think we all recognize that there is a decrease in request or activity, we say, from our clients. And we see that in the number of engaged clients. So I think we all realize that. What is happening is that the client or our clients are actually starting to realize, oh my God, what is happening? How do I take care of this situation? And you become very fundamentally focused to how do we fix this situation? We are currently in a situation, we are not on any kind of going up again. We are still down on learning how to take care of this situation. But what I realized that there is a need, our human needs has not changed just because we are going through this things around us, it's still there. So the requests are now starting to come in to us through our network globally, that they would like to start because they would like to be able to work with their culture and their values in this situation when they are, you know, at home or in the new kind of current situation where COVID is still here. And because that could be some time, and they're starting to realize that. So I think this is also an opportunity where we can actually offer our services even if we are in a virtual environment.
Mhm.
So everything that we have on our websites in terms of dialogue tools and so are could be done and delivered, and I've done that virtually as well.
So, COVID or not, you're really someone that has worked on culture for many years, Tor, at Volvo and then at BVC for many years now.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do we spark a conversation? How do we spark a transformation? So, first thing you said is to actually have a conversation about values. But I just want to maybe pick your brain here for the people on the line with us. How do I, as a leader running an organization of any kind, start towards a transformation of my culture? I mean, you mentioned having a discussion around values. What would be other things that could be done?
I think, I mean, the biggest, I don't know how to, because it depends very much on the, I call it readiness and openness for the decision makers. And you hear that I'm actually not saying the leader, because it's not always the leader who is the decision maker.
That's true.
So what is the readiness that they have? So I usually, in order to start this up, I more have conversation. I reach out and ask, what is happening right now for you, and what are your needs at this moment? And if I understand that their needs is really making sure that we have, our basic things to take care of, payments or whatever that is to keep the situation alive, then they are not maybe ready, because they are not going to be in that state. But maybe they are saying, well, we're starting to realize that we're working now in teams, and we have difficulties to build up trust among the people because we are not in the same room. And could you help us to build up trust? Okay, then I take that route. Or with this now, we have a new direction how we are going to operate, and there's a lot of confusion, I feel, and I'd like to have help to form that coalition. Could you help us to set up a conversation? So I really start where their needs are, and start to build from that. And it sounds very maybe reactive. I don't come in and say, I have a tool, or I have a COVID measurement. Are you interested? That's the wrong, I wouldn't do that. But it could be situation. I actually have this information. Are you interested to take a look? But that is connected to their needs. I think that is a very important starting point.
Thank you, Tor. If you accept, I'd like to open it up for everyone's comments, questions. So the line's open. Anyone with us is welcome to comment, share.
I saw that there was a
insights.
Question from Lucianne here regarding when did we do the survey, and that was done on the 21st of April until the 5th of May.
21st of April, so like 5-6 weeks into COVID,
Yeah.
Anyone else? Questions, comments?
Well, I thank you for this work. I find it very interesting. I would like, because I'm asking the dates because, if you say what will be, you have to project yourself. Well, here I am. I'm in the middle of COVID. I think my whole life will change, and I have this perspective. Now on June 9th, I would like to know, if is there a follow-up to what you've been doing, to know, was it wishful thinking? They were in the middle of it, and you see, it's going to change the world. It's going to change the world. Well, has it actually done the work? And I think you have a really incredible base. I think you would need to do more work to see as it's how could I say, as it metamorphosed,
changed.
As it changed, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no,
the transformation that we have foreseen.
Yeah. Yes, I am. Is there going to be a lasting change out of this? And that's why we call it the Great Transformation ? And that's exactly that reason. And there are in the different conversations that we have had like this, after this, there are many who are asking for wouldn't it be interesting to do a follow-up? And we also have larger organizations, a couple of those who have said, we would like to do this ourselves because we would like to be on top of this and look upon what's going on in our organization. So there is request for that, and they are going to have that question asked again, but that will be kind of just a normal assessment. It doesn't have to be pre and COVID and so on, but more of that. Yeah, we are, that's on the list of we would like to, and a good suggestion. But we have no concrete plans at this moment, just to not give too much of expectation. We'd love to do that though.
Okay, my other question, and I don't want to, but I find this very interesting. And have you done any media relations for business publications towards that?
Media what?
Relations. Have you approached media outlets, you know, to talk about this? Because I
share the research.
Yeah, from a Barrett perspective, no, but from independent consultant in different countries, yes.
Okay.
There are a number of those, and if somebody, because we are acting as a global player, and where would we then go? So we support, if you would like to do and take this to media, and we can go together with you if you have those connections. So we're happy to do that, but it's done on individual basis in different parts of the world.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. You know, Luciane, when you asked the question this morning, I was having a conversation on unrelated subject, but everything's related on Black Lives Matters with 3 friends. And we were saying, you know, I was saying we went from COVID to Black Lives Matters, and it would be easy to go to something else very soon, you know, another crisis. And I was asking, okay, now that we know that there's racism, and we always knew, but what are we going to do now? So when I see the study from Tor, I see a tremendous opportunity for human transformation. But it'd be easy to say, okay, we had a crisis, let's go back and pretend that nothing really happened, you know, which is what it seems that humanity is often doing.
It represents exactly how humans, why do we change is when you have, and you know that, I know that, and evidently, I'm sure other people on the call, when humans, they want to stay in their, even if it hurts, you know, they stay in impossible situations because we don't like change. Humans don't. So organizations are a bunch of humans together. So even in organization, it's hard to change. So COVID has shaken the world. Will it stick, and what will stick?
What do we take away as learning? That's an interesting question.
And you know, Tor, in Montreal, where some of us live, there's a lot of traffic. It's easy for someone to take 30 to 45 minutes to an hour to go to work, you know, especially Luciane, she has to cross a bridge and stuff like that. So, and people were asking for working from home, and the companies were saying, no, you can't. And now we forced everyone to work from home for 12 weeks. So when the office opens, and I don't know, the woman in her 30s who has 2 children says, I want to work from home. And the company is going to say, no, you can't. So for sure, there's going to be pressure on the decision makers, Tor, to lead differently. How much of it will it stick? How much will not stick? That's what's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that we have picked up that is being, you know, up in the let's see where we have that. I'm going to look at where that showed up in. Let me tell you instead. Digital connectivity is actually a new word that come in the during and also in the after situation. We are clearly seeing that we would like to continue to be digitally connected, so to speak, going forward. So I think that is one of the major changes. But I also hope that we will see a change on how we look upon each other as employees and or as human beings, if I put it even like that. That's what I'm hoping as well. And personally, when it comes to this, the riots and demonstrations that we see right now is a very expected continuation or extension of the crisis that we are in.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not very surprised about seeing that and why it's become so strong. So maybe that is also helping us. Yeah, Eric.
I mean, I love that first slide. That what's happened in 6 weeks would normally take 5 to 7 years. And I'm a clinical psychologist. I have chosen to have clients who are not blamers, and I am having a wonderful time with my clients. Most of my clients are doing better now than they were before this started. And, you know, the question I asked myself, which some of you know, is who am I going to work with? Because I don't want to work with old cultures that are stuck, because a lot of those cultures are going to die. Those organizations are not going to live. I happen to believe that we're just starting this. Yeah. Everybody thinks it's going to go back to normal. There is going to be no going back to normal. That's done. That's my truth. I don't know whether it's the truth. We'll find out.
No, but I think that Lucian, you actually expressed that when you have a crisis in your life, that is usually also turning and makes a fundamental. That's where you can see major shifts from a psychological point of view. And I think there is a collective psychological consciousness at this moment that may be a trigger for us to kind of move forward and get a little more of consciousness that is not only about making profit or growth or what we thought was the worldview that you need to live by.
Yeah, I'm seeing this as human development on steroids.
Yeah.
And then everybody's doing it because the outside world is so fundamentally different. It creates all this internal instability, and people are needing to adjust and become more resilient or not.
However, though, if I were to challenge that, there is a lot of ego in the world, and that egoism is, in my point of view, one of the biggest hinder for us to be able to embrace a new or a more conscious world. And here's where I think that we have a say as Eric, like in your how you work with people, is really to understand what are these egos that I have are usually unconscious or subconscious, and they trigger us to do things which is actually not serving us, may serve us short term but not long term, and it's our job to create more consciousness around those triggers or those behaviors that we have, because we think that we have these needs that we need to fulfill that we have not yet learned to live up to. So helping the leaders or people in general who would like to be much more attuned, so to speak, to that new world that we are talking about, is to help them to understand what are the things that are actually holding them back. I think that is a big part of what we can do differently going on.
Well, just this one thing, and then I'll be quiet for a moment. It's like what's happening now with Black Lives Matter is happening because what has been happening for hundreds of years was captured on a video clip. So it can no longer be invisible. It's now visible. And that has an opportunity to change people's egos.
Sure.
Yeah.
Which is what Eric promoted, the Arab Springs, with people with tweets and videos, so I think my guess, Tor, is that consciousness is rising, and it's going through different. There was COVID, now it's Black Lives Matter. Soon it'll be something else. But I've never seen so many people discussing these things. Like in my community, my surrounding. Wow, it was always there, as you said, Eric. The Black people get killed every day in the U.S. or many times a day, but now it's evident. We have videos of it. So I think it's going to keep rising, and. My question is always, Tor, is how much of a battle is it going to be, between the light and the darkness?
No, but we have understanding of equality, which is Black Lives Matter. That's a summary of that, equality or diversity. But you also have poverty. You also have focus on environmental issues. You have focus on, that we are living in a very unfair system, so to speak. There are many different movements at the moment that are calling or reflection of a deeper or wider, whatever you would like to call it, level or of consciousness. And when this crisis hit, these were already moving, but the crisis made us go back and a little bit and focus on ourselves and give us that space. I don't know who said that, but they gave us that good possibility to reflect upon, am I really doing the right thing? Is this what I would like it to be? And that helped. That's really so that is helping us. Now, I'm also very conscious about that we are a fortunate group of people in this call who has the possibility to sit in safe homes, nice places, and so on, and you know, kind of ride out and so on. Many of them are really focusing on survival, finding something to eat for the day. I mean, it's all. So it's easy for us to have these basic things in order. We all look healthy and probably get food and have all those things. But a lot of people are on the edge and are survival focused, and asking them to think about more consciousness about how do we save the world. And it's going to be very, very difficult. But it's more for leaders to understand that that needs to be taken care of as well.
Thank you.
I have a question again. When you say that Eric was saying the transformation of 7 years happened in 6 weeks, what, you know, do you have a model? How did you come up? Because it's a strong, I love it. It's a strong assessment. And how did you come up with the, you know, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 10 weeks?
Yeah, let me
7 years, how, you know, your models, you know.
Yeah, I can have one picture that can maybe show you then and explain the reasoning we have regarding that. And I'm using this picture to describe that on the right track, because here we have, in order to come to, this is more the, you know, the post-COVID is the desired culture. And then you have the during culture. Those are what's happening right now, and that's what we would like it to be. To have 6 values out of 10 that are matching values is not very common. We don't see that, and it takes a long time for organization to reach that kind of alignment. Does that make sense? And that is a normal time span of that, of hard work, gradually, you know, getting conscious about what needs to happen. That is what it takes. In this case, it was all of a sudden it's this. Now we could then of course question, is this going to stay? We don't know that. That's your other question, by the way, right? But that is what we mean. To see this strong alignment between what we have and what we would like to have is normally, and remember, this is the reflection of our needs. What we need now is what we think we need in the future. That alignment is normally, to get to that point, takes normally around 5 to 7 years. It could also be done in 3 years, but I mean, in general terms. So there is not a mathematical, it's more of an experience-based.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a few minutes left. Anyone else would like to make a comment or ask another question? If not, we'll go back to Lucia. No, joking.
Sorry, I'm very enthusiastic about what you've just said.
Which is perfect. And since you're my friend, I'm making a joke.
Jackie,
yes, Jackie.
Because she came much closer to the screen all of a sudden, so I think that she has something to say.
Yeah, she raised her hand.
Yeah, hello everybody. I'm very sorry I came in to the call quite late, but I came in on your first slide where it said we went from 5 to 7 years to 5 weeks or whatever, and that's kind of hit me. I'm a newly trained systemic coach, and I am basing my business model on exactly what you're talking about. So how to help companies transform. So I just wanted to say thank you. You know, I'd like to catch up a little bit more, sort of in the near future, and chat about this. But for me, it's how can we make this change stick is what's important for me to take away from this call. And I thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you. I'm open for that if that was is something that you will talk about in your community, or if it's something that involves me, you're welcome to talk to us as well.
Thank you.
Jackie, that's the question I've been asking myself since I saw the presentation 2 weeks ago. How can we use it to streamline change, but also make some of it stick? Not all of it will stick, but very good question. Mm-hmm. So I think it's the top of the hour. So I want to thank you, Tor, for taking time. I know
thank
it's
you
early evening
for inviting me.
Yeah, you probably due for a happy hour by the water or something at your summer home. So I'll let you go.
Yeah, it's 7 o'clock in the evening, but that's the same in Italy. So
yeah,
and also in Croatia, if that was the case.
Yeah. And I want to thank everyone who showed interest in values and cultural transformation. So thank you everyone for coming. And I wish everyone a great afternoon or a great evening. Thank you very much, Tor.
Thank you very much.
Way to go.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Tor.
Thank you.
Stéphane.
Merci,
Bye.
Stéphane.